Okay, this is a test. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the City of Delafield Board of Review for 2026, coming to order on July 15th at 4 p.m. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please, Molly.
Sure thing. Mayor Iker,
Present.
Alderperson Wilkin,
Here.
Thanos Maxwell,
Here.
Craig Hines,
Here.
Paul Price,
Here.
Janine Sawal,
Okay.
microphone
Here.
here. Thomas Wolfenberger.
Here.
All right, thanks, everyone. Item 4, approval of minutes, May 26, 2025. Those are not prepared. We will be following up to get those approved. Number 5, confirmation of appropriate board of review, open book, and open meeting notices.
Sure thing. So all notices and publications have been performed in accordance with the requirements of the law. The last time we had a meeting, I had been waiting on some affidavits, which are included in the e-packet for this meeting.
Okay, is that it?
Yep.
All right. So verify mandatory training requirements for board of review members.
Okay, so we had a few extra members complete training since the last weekend. So in total, we do have 4 board members that completed the training in 2026. We only are having to have 1 required by law. So we are more than required.
Very good. Looking to verify the laws for confidentiality, phone testimony, and written testimony.
So I've provided that information in the packet, but I'm just going to defer to those sections of the municipal code and statute that were provided, which detail those laws and code.
So do we need anything to approve, or that's enough?
Nope, that's enough.
Okay. Review of any new laws. There are none for 2026. 9, verbal confirmation of filing and summary of assessment roll by assessor's office. Would you like to come up and introduce yourself? Thank you. All I have to do is tap the bottom horizontal bar and then the light turns green.
Wonderful. Hi, I'm Lori. I'm with Accurate Appraisal. I've been an assessor with Accurate for about 5 years. I have both my Assessor 2 and my Assessor 3, so there would be essentially all municipalities within the state of Wisconsin that I could be the statutory assessor for. This is our first year with Delafield, and I do have the roll posted over there if anyone would like to take a peek. On Accurate's website, we do have the initial roll as a PDF. If anyone is ever curious for an individual property record card, we also have that available online under our property search, which has real tied stream to our assessor data. So if there's been any updates, that would have a live feed to that as well. I would like to pass out a report if that's okay, just to kind of go over the assessment practice for this year.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, again, as I mentioned, it's our first year with the city of Delafield. This is what's called a maintenance year. Last year was your last market update year. We do not have to do market updates every year within the state of Wisconsin, although we are a market value state. So in years of which we don't have a market update, there is generally a ratio that the state puts out to tell you where your values are on your last assessed values, which again would be 2025 comparative to the current market analysis. The city of Delafield's at a 92% overall for community. We do keep an assessment timeline. We still do common practices throughout every year of our assessment, which would include field work. Typically, we're checking in the field for certain items. That's generally inclusive of reasons why we might want to visit a property. That could be things flagged from the prior assessor this year, from last year. Typically, those are unfinished projects that were flagged for one reason or another. Generally, they're derived from permits that were taken out. They could be sale verifications. We do sales analysis every year. Again, in a non-market year like this year, we do not apply those sales. However, we are reviewing sales on an annual basis. So we do review all sales. Those that we still need to do an on-site check for, those would be added for our field practices. There could also be a handful of things, exemption requests, other things that were flagged for one reason or another. A property owner has asked us to come out. That would be, again, another item that we'd add to our field work. So we did our field work completion on May 21st. We, again, still do a real estate review, which again would be reviewing still those sales and other analysis points, again, even though we're not applying that in a maintenance year. That was done on June 19th. Any changes in value for this year, again, typically we, per state law, would only send changes if there's been a change over $300, and that was sent on June 19th. I think Accurate's practice is anything over $100, because that's, we change in increments of 100 at a time. So anytime essentially something changes, we would send out that notice. Our open book was held on June 29th. Any open book changes would have been mailed then on June 30th, and we're here today on July 15th for the board review. We had visited 149 parcels during our field visits. Because of the transfer of data, there wasn't some of our quick analysis as far as permits reviewed, because we don't know how many the prior assessor might have reviewed before we reviewed. So in future years, these would be concrete data points here. Again, we don't know how many sales at this point, given we don't have a market year, because we didn't then use sales, so that would remain open. Again, same thing for usable sales for residential. During open book, I was the one who came here and attended, and nobody had scheduled an appointment. I still came and hung out. We did have a couple people come in, but there was no scheduled appointments. That's 0 for. If I keep going down, we still do have customer interaction, which for us would be residents of the city that had interacted with us. That could be calling our customer service, emailing our email box. We had about 30 residential property owners and 13 commercial property owners interact with us throughout this assessment year. On the notes on the bottom, as far as our contract goes, it's this year, 2026 through 2028, and kind of what to expect in each of those years. This year, again, being a maintenance year, we're maintaining that last level of assessment. Next year would be another market update year, and then following that, another maintenance year in 2028.
Okay, thank you.
As far as, and just a question, we do have within the role the assessor oath and the assessor affidavit. That's up to you guys as far as when you would like me to recite the oath and sign the affidavit, which would mean you will, I'm sending the role, you guys are accepting the role at that point.
That is number 11.
Yeah, it's coming up. Do you want me to stay up here for that, or?
Sure. We are going to, let's see, we received the roll, received the assessment roll, and sworn statements from the clerk.
We got 10 assessment. Are you wanting to do a second with regards to this?
Yep.
This is receiving of the assessment roll by the clerk from the assessor.
So I'm going to read the official oath, and then me and the clerk will be signing these forms. So I, Lori Sacco, have been elected or appointed to the office of the assessor for the city of Delafield, swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin, and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability, so help me God. This is truly one form, but since I need a copy and you need a copy, I just make two so we don't have to mess with the copy. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
All right, so we have received the assessment roll. Is there any sworn statements you need to make, Molly?
That was
That was it? And the sworn statements that you just took, okay, that you received. Okay, now we get to examine the roll. So we can do that in the book. I don't know if you have a computer here with you, but I'd suggest you check out properties that you're familiar with or look at the roll and take your time. I'm trying to think if we've got a...
We are still working on stuff. If you'd like to sign in back there. Sure. I need a pen. If anybody did have a laptop and wanted to go to their website, if you go to the staff directory in the city of Delafield, under the appraisal, it links to their website. And then there is on their website, on the top sections to go visit the roles for the individual municipalities.
I highly recommend using Control F because that would help you search faster if you're using the computer.
Was the website up here yesterday? Was the website on our page yesterday or no?
So you have to go to the directory,
Oh, okay, all right.
and it's been up there, but I added a new link today to the,
On the assessor page,
Yep.
okay, got you.
because I didn't realize it wasn't showing up. So yes and no.
it's a little bit like study hall. How did everybody do? Is there anybody need more time or any questions? Okay, I don't know if our assessor wants to come back up here, but, so we've examined the roll. Does anybody find any description or calculation errors? Anybody find any omitted properties? Any double assessed properties? Okay, so we have not. Is there any corrections that the assessor would like to point out that she may have found?
None that I'm aware of.
All right. So then let's see. So you've got any of the open book changes you have included in the assessment roll?
Correct.
Okay. Is there any taxpayer who would like to view the roll as we just so have? It's up here if you're interested in looking at the book. We're gonna be hearing your case in a little bit.
Okay.
Okay.
So you want me to?
You don't have to.
I don't know what that even means.
That just means you can look at the entire city's assessments.
Oh, no.
Okay. I didn't mean to discourage you. Which one? Discussion and action? Okay. All right, so 13, I'm sorry. Is there any action to well, there's no corrections to certify, but so we'll go ahead and acknowledge. Someone would like to make a motion to acknowledge that any corrections or errors were taken care of? You need a microphone on, sorry.
I motion to accept that any errors or corrections were made.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Say nay. Okay, abstentions? All right. Discussion, motion carries. Discussion action to verify with the assessor the open book changes have been included. I just simply asked the question. She said no. So is there anybody like to make a motion to accept her answer as true? Is that the assessors, that she's included them in the roll?
I would like to motion that the assessor has testified true that
Any open book changes or,
any open book changes have been taken care of.
there's a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Okay. So then, no taxpayers have been interested in looking at the roll again. During the first 2 hours, we need consideration of, and the first one is waivers of the required 48-hour notice of intent to file an objection when there is good cause. So we have a couple of those.
We do not have any.
Oh, I'm sorry. No. We have no waivers of 48-hour notice. Request for waiver of the board review hearing at the board's own discretion. For waiver of the board review hearings. So there is none, right?
Correct.
Okay. Request for waiver of the board review hearing allowing the property owner to appeal directly to the circuit court. So we do have two for here. One of them is discussion and action for attorneys Mallory SC on behalf of Walmart Real Estate Business Trust for the board of review waiver on 2863 Heritage Drive, identified by tax key DELC 0804-994-021. Would someone like to make the motion to accept that waiver request? Is everyone familiar with what that is? Instead of us hearing Walmart, we will send them up to the attorneys and let them work it out with the court.
I accept the waiver motion for Walmart to be seen at court. Or motion.
Any questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Okay, the Walmart waiver has been granted.
May I just ask for clarification? We are sending that up so it can just go to circuit court. That's our reasoning for approving the waiver. I have to put that on the.
Yes, we're going to waiver it so it can go straight to court.
Okay.
All right, and now we have, I'm looking for we had one that was filed timely and did not get the actual form in time. You want to?
Yeah. So I provided kind of a little chain of events. The first one is an email of where they sent me, I requested their information. I received their paperwork yesterday after I'd posted the agenda and notified them that I had not received notice of intent, which they then promptly responded that they had provided it back on March of March 26th of this year, so I overlooked that. So because we received the notice of intent, the forms were received timely. Their objection information and waiver requests are all in there. It is for Walgreens, and that is 2901 Gulf Road, DELC 0801999-999010. Their assessed value is $4,503,200. Their opinion of the value is $2,295,000. So their objection form that they supplied was filled out in full. I did not need to request that they fill out anything or let them know anything was incomplete. And then they also filled out their waiver request in full. So if, just a side note on this one, I believe we are also in litigation currently with Walgreens. So yet another reason to consider waiving them forward, if you would choose. But that is what the additional waiver request would be for that 2901 Gulf Road property.
I motion that we waive the Walgreens property on Gulf Road to court for further litigation.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, or abstentions?
Actually, can I back up on both of these? I apologize. I have a note here for roll call vote for both of these waivers. So can we back up to the motion for the first one? To approve the Board of Review waiver on 2863 Heritage Drive. Roll call vote for that.
So,
Yep. Mayor Iker,
yes.
Alderperson Wilkin,
Yes.
Thanos Maxwell,
Yes.
Craig Hines,
Yes.
Paul Price,
Yes.
Janine Sawal,
Yes.
Tom Wolfenberger.
Yes.
Okay. And then for the motion by Sawal, seconded by Wilkin to approve the Board of Review waiver on 2901 Gulf Road, identified by DELC 08019999010. Roll call vote for that. Mayor Iker,
Yes.
Alderperson Wilkin,
Yes.
Thanos Maxwell,
Yes.
Craig Hines,
Yes.
Paul Price,
Yes.
Janine Sawal,
Yes.
Thomas Wolfenberger.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that, folks.
All right, thank you. Well, we have 2 hours. So any requests to testify by telephone or submit a sworn written statement? There is none, right?
If the waiver would have been denied.
Oh, gotcha, okay. All right. No subpoena requests. 16F. This is just formally accept discussion possible action to determine a formal board policy on requirement for attendance in person for entities that have requested a waiver by the Board of Review or any other applicable and legally allowable situations where attendance may not be required. Want to fill us in on that?
Sure thing. So there's been a longstanding policy that has been to allow the requesters to skip attendance at a meeting if they were requesting a Board of Review hearing waiver. And then in the past, if a request to testify by telephone has been received, there was no requirement for a representative of that property owner to attend the deliberation on whether or not to approve that request to testify by telephone. I am not aware recently that this policy has been formally considered by the board, so I would like the board to determine if you would like to continue with that being the standard policy, or if you would like to direct the clerk, myself, whomever else is the clerk at the time, to relay to parties that attendance in person would be required for one or either or both of the requests. I'm requesting the board to make a formal motion that outlines the policy you would like the clerk to follow. I would perhaps suggest including some language in there that defers to any superseding statutory update, such as until board action, municipal code or state statutes determine otherwise with regard to whatever, or something like that. So I would just appreciate some direction from the board on how to get those, or how to respond to those requests formally.
So right now, isn't our policy to have people state a reason why they can't be here? And for us to consider that prior to the hearing date?
So that's been for a hearing.
Okay,
So like, for example, we just passed the waiver request for Walmart and for Walgreens, and they don't have a person present to discuss. Generally speaking, let me rephrase, that policy was passed down to me through, my training as a clerk, and I'm not sure if it came from the mayor at the time or whatnot, but I don't have that formalized. It wouldn't, the standard policy for the board is to require in-person attendance for the hearings, absent any extenuating circumstances or things like that. But there has not been any precedent aside from that they've not attended, and we've never required them to attend if they're requesting a waiver or to have a representative from their local establishment come and just request it on their behalf, just sit here for us to say yes or no, kind of a thing.
This is generally with a commercial property that we have these waiver requests.
Typically, yes. I don't know that we've ever, that I've seen one come through that wasn't a commercial property, large,
Big box stores.
yes, those types of things. Not to say that it couldn't be somebody who just would prefer to take it to circuit court. I mean, you don't have to approve the waivers, so having a person here to discuss why would be, something that might be helpful if it is. But I would think that if you're going to do one type of property versus another, you might want to consider it for everybody and not set forth a standard that creates a differentiation where you may not want one, I guess.
so really the downside of doing the policy, the only possible downside of not maintaining a policy or formalizing a policy where we don't require someone to be here is if our intention by not granting the waiver would be to have the hearing that night or that day. Because otherwise, we'd be setting a date for a future hearing anyways.
Right.
And that's, to me, that seems like a reasonable thing for us to maintain. And that's just, if we decide we've got too many questions about why we want to hear the case, where we could decline the waiver with the understanding that we'd be setting a future hearing date to hear that particular case. Does that sound fair? Do you know what I mean by that? I mean, instead of, no, you don't get a waiver, you better be ready to have your case heard that night. I mean, that would be the alternative to saying, you have to be here in person to be ready to hear the, present your case, or we're just requiring someone to be here in person to be here in person. To get their request either honored or a date set. And I'm not sure how I don't know that that's crucial for us, for the process to do that.
And I can't remember in my time on the board that we've ever denied someone.
There's very likely we'll come across it at some point, but I think
Historically, we have not.
we have not. We have not. We've embraced the waiver
Yeah.
for the case, for the purposes that it provides us, and that's to let the more intricate legal wranglings and different measurements of value be hashed out by the people that do it for a living. So I don't know.
What would be a reason we would deny?
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm just thinking it might happen, but
Yeah.
I'm trying, I can't think of one. Because like one that would possibly come into your thought process is that we wouldn't want to expend the legal resources for something that would be a rather simple case if their argument was like over a $500 difference in their assessment. However, we have a city attorney that covers our costs for those types of escalations, so it wouldn't have a plus or minus effect on our bottom line as a budget, so. So that's the only thing I could think of, if the case was really inane or small, that we wouldn't want to go through the, the exercise with our attorney, but chances are that they're not gonna mind, because they're compensated for it through the league. That's correct, isn't it? I mean, I can double check that, but we don't get a bill from our, from this process when there's normal amount of time and effort applied for these petitions.
Not to say, though, that if we do have more go, that bid for that contract may go up.
Possibly, yeah, yeah.
So, okay.
But, yeah, but historically, we have a handful, 2 to 5 a year, and that's usually for good reason. So you want formal action?
Yeah,
Say-
yes, I would appreciate it if the board would provide formal action on a policy of how the clerk should respond when folks who have submitted a waiver request or a request to testify by telephone or in writing are received, and whether or not they have to be present at that first hearing where those items are being considered. I had Walmart ask if they had to be in person
So-
every year, so I just,
And I know I run the meeting, but I vote. Am I okay to make a motion?
yeah.
Okay. I'll make a motion that our policy for waiver requests is that you do not have to be in person, and if the waiver is denied, that we will set a future hearing date.
I second.
Any discussion or clarification? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Abstentions? Okay. Policy formalized.
There was not an addressing of the
Telephone?
telephone. Do we want to do that separately?
Wouldn't that be the same testifying by telephone policy for?
Well, waiver requests are different. Testifying by telephone, for example, last year we had the Lightens that requested to testify by telephone. I do believe
Are they
that,
requesting a waiver?
no, they weren't, they had a hearing. They were requested to testify by telephone. I believe we had Jackie Leiden present for that first meeting to discuss whether or not we were going to approve their request to testify by telephone. So they did have an in-person representative here. I'm just asking as to whether or not that would have been required, or you want to continue requiring that they, if that request is being made, that they do send a representative to attend to the deliberations on whether or not to approve.
I don't have an opinion on this. What do you guys think? So this is it's a separate item though, right? I mean,
So then they're asking to testify via telephone during a hearing.
where
Correct.
attendance may not be.
Correct.
Which I think is reasonable, if it's a second property and/or you're taking care of a parent or something out of town. I mean, I'm just, it's a courtesy.
For due cause.
Yeah, for due cause, yes, if they have a reason, yeah, I agree with that, Tom.
Right, so,
And you have to define due cause.
well, we're not here to define whether or not we're allowing people to testify by phone. That's all, that was already in the code. It's just whether or not when we first deliberate about it, when the board should first deliberate about it, whether or not they are required to have a representative to be part of that discussion. Obviously, if they're required to testify, or if they're asking to testify by phone, there's some sort of difficulty, whether it be something that the board believes is extenuating enough or warrants that testimony would be something to deliberate on during that. But if they were unable to attend, because let's just say it is solely a second property and they really don't have a local representative, do you want them to, we don't care, you need to have a representative present. We're going to deliberate, we need to ask questions as to why. If you're not able to make it, unfortunately, that kind of a situation, or is that something that if they ask to whether or not they need to be present, the board would like me to say, or whatever clerk is sitting there at the time to say, if you want to have input, you'll need to be present, otherwise the board will have to deliberate based on the information that you've provided, kind of a thing, in your form, in your request.
It sounds like if we required somebody to be here for us to consider telephonic testimony, that would be kind of contradictory. I mean, if they could be here, then the telephonic testimony from somebody else would be less important and probably not a very common situation. So I would recommend that we not require somebody to be here while we consider a request for telephonic testimony.
Seems logical.
Is that a motion and a second good enough for you, what we just heard?
I would make that a motion, Molly. I move that we not require people to be here in person to discuss the validity of a telephonic testimony.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion, questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Okay. We good? All right. Item 17, we had noticed that these were all resolved before the meeting tonight. So we'll go on to item 18. And that is the hearing for 3280 Waterleaf Lane. So why don't you introduce it, please, Molly? I'm assuming we're in good shape with recording.
Sounds like we're on YouTube still.
All right.
All right. Did you want to open the hearing or just have me introduce it first?
Yeah, introduce the case, and then we'll open it up.
Alrighty, so this is the case of Matthew Scherer and Charlene Pinkelman Scherer. The property owner has a mailing address of 3280 Waterleaf Lane, Heartland, Wisconsin, 53029. The address for the property in question is 3280 Waterleaf Lane, Heartland, Wisconsin, 53029. The tax key for this property is DELC 0754013. The value in the assessment roll for the current year is land, $223,800. Improvements, $1,720,600, for a total assessed value of $1,944,400.
Okay, let's see, why don't we have the property owner and the assessor come forward, please?
Can I actually make an update to the value that was part of a change?
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I just need to pull it up. All right, so currently, the land value is $223,800, improvements $1,695,600, total value $1,919,400.
And that change was made during open book?
Correct. This is,
Did he write it?
yes, the I think this is maybe part of his original. That was the original. So you just didn't update it,
He didn't update it,
correct?
so I'm gonna have to do math.
So the numbers you just read, Lori, are correct?
Correct.
Okay, well, why don't we have the clerk swear you both in, please, since the hearing is live.
All right, can you both please raise your right hand to be sworn in? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony which you shall give in the matter now on hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Can you turn on your microphone? And then I do again.
I do?
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to just briefly, it's going to sound not so briefly, but describe how this procedure goes. This is, as you can tell, we're under rather rigid guidelines as far as how we operate here. So what's going to happen is the person filing the objection will testify and present their evidence first, and then the assessor may ask the property owner objector questions, after which the Board of Review members may ask additional questions that they have for the property owner. After the property owner testifies, the other witnesses present in support of the property owner will testify. Each witness will be subject to questions from the assessor and the Board of Review members. Then after all the witness for the property owner and objector have testified, the assessor will present their case in support of the assessment. The property owner objector may then ask the assessor questions, followed by Board of Review members. After, and if any of this, you need any help along the way, please ask. After the assessor testifies, any other witnesses present in support of the assessor will testify. Each witness will then be subject to questions from the property owner and then the Board of Review members. The property owner and objector may respond to the assessor's testimony by presenting any other or additional evidence, followed by additional questioning from the assessor and the Board of Review members. Then the assessor may present any other additional evidence in support of the assessment, again, subject to the questioning from the property owner and the Board of Review members. And then after all the evidence has been submitted under oath, the property owner objector may make a brief summary of their case to the Board of Review, and then the assessor may follow with a brief summary of their case. After each summary has been presented, the taking of testimony will be closed. The Board of Review will deliberate on the testimony in an open session, either immediately following the testimony or at a later date to be announced. Does that get the flow of it? And if you have, okay, thank you. So, based on that, we're about to begin your testimony, but I want you to understand that under state law, the Board of Review, we are required to uphold the assessor's valuation of your property as being correct, unless you, by your testimony, can show the assessor's valuation to be incorrect. In other words, the burden of proof is upon you as the taxpayer. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So for the record, can you please state your full name and address?
It's Charlene
If
Pinkelman.
you wouldn't mind just get a little closer to the mic.
Sure.
Thank you.
Charlene Pinkelman Shear. We're at 3280 Waterleaf Lane, Heartland, Wisconsin, 53029.
Okay, and please state what amount, in your opinion, is the fair market value of your property?
We assessed it at 1.725, which is how much we paid for it. And then the additional value of the improvements, which was the 76,900. And that would bring the total then to 1,801,900. I did not say that.
Got you.
But did you get, yes.
Okay. So then, just, I guess, present whatever evidence you have to support that number.
Yeah, so we're just saying that, really, how we figure you get in a, you know, the original assessed value is what somebody has paid for it. And so, you know, last year we bought it at the 1.725, and that's kind of where we feel that it should start. And then, of course, the value of improvements that we had. And that is how you'd get what we feel the accurate assessment of our home would be. The other thing is 2 other houses have sold, both, one in 25 and one in 24, and they were, their square foot, price per square footage, the first one was $332, and the second one was $329, whereas if you look at what ours would be if it was assessed, it's approximately $400. So we're all in the same neighborhood. You know, the homes are very, very similar, as far as, you know, the bedrooms. So, yeah, we just really kind of feel like the starting number was where we would disagree with or dispute.
Okay,
Does that make sense? I hope.
I followed you.
Okay, good.
Do you have anything more to lead off with?
No, that's kind of
Okay,
what we bring, yeah.
all right, so at this point, I'll have the assessor ask you questions.
Sure. So I had the opportunity to speak with
Yes.
your husband. But in that conversation, we were talking about the purchase.
Yes.
How did you come about that property? Was it through a realtor or a broker?
How we came with we agreed to it. So,
How you found out about the property? Was it listed on MLS?
it was not listed on MLS. So what had happened is, like many other people, we are trying to find a home, and there are not a lot of homes available. So we had our realtor put out feelers, and they came back to us and said, you know, at that time, we aren't ready, but we will be ready in the spring. So then they reached back out to us in the spring while we still continued looking for homes, but there just wasn't anything doable for us. And then we knew that we wanted to make a strong offer, just for the fact we wanted the property. So we probably did actually pay a little over market value, what we would consider market value, but it was through our realtor.
So to your knowledge, it wasn't publicly listed. It was following back on that?
Correct.
Lead. Okay.
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's my only question.
Does anyone on the Board of Review have any questions for the property owner?
Did you have any relationship with the seller of the property? Did you have any prior knowledge of them or anything else?
No,
Did they have a price listed when they offered it?
no, not that we're aware of, that there was a price. We just went in, we made the first bid, we came in, like we said, very strong, because we knew we wanted it. And that's kind of the price we agreed upon.
And when you say you did $76,000 in improvement, what did you do?
We had to finish the basement. So we made a bathroom, a bedroom. On the main level, there is only 3 bedrooms, and we have 3 kids, so they each need their own bedroom, and like a rec room. And then like a still concrete space that the kids can throw baseballs and hockey sticks and like that. So it wouldn't ruin the rest.
So currently you have a 4-bedroom, how many bath?
We have full bath, we have, 1, 2, 3, 4 full bath and 2 half. We placed in a half bath down there as well.
And you have comparables listed there. Do you know what you said a 4-bedroom house, do you know how many bathrooms they have?
Unfortunately, Matt did not write that down, I'm sorry. And then there's also a 5-bedroom
Yep.
house.
And do you know,
I don't, unfortunately, I'm very
Okay.
sorry.
Are you familiar with your property information card that the assessor had as far as the specs for your home, the square footage, the rooms? You know, your listing, we all have a copy of what's on the appraisal site for your property. That's one of the things we reviewed on the roll.
If I may, when I spoke with Matt, we did review their property record card.
Okay, great, thank you. I guess, yes.
Okay. Okay.
And another question I have is, you're saying your purchase price and then your improvements that you paid, and then you came up with the 18. Did you do any addition for the inflation just over the last year that home prices have increased in this area?
No, he did not, I would say. Or, no, I did not.
All right, anything else? Do you have any other witnesses you'd like to?
No,
May I
Okay.
circle back and just confirm your bathroom count?
yes, oh boy. 1, 2, 3 on the main level in a powder room,
We-
and then 1 full one downstairs. And then another half.
So 4 full and 2 half. Okay.
I'm also assuming you have not been in those other homes, it sounds like.
No, not either one of those in the neighborhood, no. I've been in other homes in the neighborhood, but not in those two.
I just fit, well, and I don't know, can I ask her questions as well?
Well, she's going to give her evidence,
Okay,
and then we can
thank you.
ask.
Gotcha. My bad.
And so, Lori, if you don't mind, I don't have it in order here, but would you mind just, for the record, just stating your name and address? I know you introduced yourself earlier, but,
Oh, absolutely. Lori Sacco with Accurate, 1428 Midway Road, Menasha, Wisconsin.
okay, thank you. So do you have any questions, any further questions for the,
No, I'm sorry.
okay. Why don't you present your case, what you've got? And again, then, you're next to ask her questions about anything she presents.
Thank you.
Okay, so I handed you a couple different documents there. I'll kind of start at the top and then go down, talking briefly about each of them. So the first page is most of the items here are from the Wisconsin Assessor Property Manual, and that would be a manual that essentially gives instruction to assessors within the state of Wisconsin on how to essentially go through the assessment process. Something we talked about initially in the meeting is that the city of Delafield is in a maintenance year, where again, we're maintaining the level of assessment from the last assessment year, which would have been last year in 2025. In Chapter 4 of the Assessor Manual, and that's that first page, it gives hopefully a tool, I think was their intent, to give you or give anyone a quick overview of what would kind of be acceptable within each of the different type of assessment years. So the highlighted box I kind of drew is under the category of maintenance. And typically in a maintenance year, given we're maintaining value, we tend not to change value unless per the state, something kind of triggers within one of those items. Traditionally, that would be something that would say, there was annexed property in, exemption status had changed, there's a demo or a fire, new construction, that doesn't need to be fully, that could be, again, something like renovating a kitchen, finishing out a basement, things of that nature. Ongoing construction, change in legal description, or potentially some zoning changes. So in this property that we're going to discuss, there is kind of one piece that triggered there, which is why the property owner received a valuation change this year, which was additional construction on the home that then was completed, and therefore we added some additional value. So kind of we have two mechanisms. We're maintaining that last level of assessment, but also there was a change on the property that triggered some additional value. In this case, not removal, there wasn't something removed off the property, but something in addition added. So starting out there, just kind of adding to the discussion about talking with the property owner, it wasn't a discussion that the value added for the rec room was kind of a point of disagreement there. In their opinion, it was the starting point of the value. So the starting point for us as the assessors was that last assessed value that was set forth in the roll book and approved last year. So our starting point was that value, and we added on to that value. When talking to the property owner, they did discuss with me that there was a purchase last year. So looking at, again, what would be market value, traditionally in the sense of finishing out a basement, most often we're looking at a price per square foot of, depending on the condition of that rec room. Some people might just put up some paneled walls, other people may put some drywall up, others may put a mini bar. You know, there's a lot of variety there, plus some additional value depending on attributes that you add. So if there's a bedroom with an egress, is there a bathroom? Or in this case, a bathroom and a half that were added, those might also add some additional value there. Again, we started with that last assessed value. We added $1 per square foot for that rec room, and then additional value for a bathroom. When I was originally discussing it, I was not informed about the additional bedroom. And I'll get into a little bit more of the details too as we're kind of going through this. But just to get back to the items that I attached. Now the second page, and actually the second and the third page I added, are discussing sales when we are reviewing sales. Now, again, this is a maintenance year, so we are not applying sales as an indication of market value. However, just to give some context, potentially when new construction is occurring, we may look back at that sale value, especially if it's a situation where the whole house was gutted and now it went onto the market. Well, it wasn't that same house. Now, how would we value that house? That might be a situation where the sale comes into play. However, we are looking for what would be deemed an arm's length valid sale. So when talking with the property owner, that was something that had stuck out to me, was the discussion. It was never marketed. It does seem like it was an arm's length as far as unknown parties, non-related parties, not business owners, or again, other related parties. However, the pages that I attached are in Chapter 10 that do talk a little bit from the Wisconsin Assessor Manual that talk about validation and situations where we might reject that sale as a usable sale. And it essentially would talk about exposure to the market or single-party transactions. So I try to highlight there some of those, again, and there's more here if the board would like to review, but just to cite, I want to make sure the chapter, the page, and then just kind of that highlighted topic of a single purchaser would not essentially, the sale being dependent on a single purchaser would not be reflective of the market. Also, when we are validating sales and sending that back to the state, that's where this third page comes in, Chapter 10, Section 12, when it talks about rejection codes potentially not then again being used for ratio. Reasonable time allowed for exposure in the market might be a reason why the assessor would then not use that sale as a indication of market. Now, traditionally, again, when we're doing a market analysis, we'll look at additional sales. Again, this is not a market year, so we're not traditionally doing that. But that was the consideration we went through to discuss, would that sale potentially give us some indication of the market. And with the lack of exposure, it was noted not to be indication of the market. I did pull the MLS as well, just to be curious. Sometimes realtors still put the data on there, and they did put it on there. However, it notes one-party listings. I won't go down the rabbit hole. It's still listed as an arm's length transaction. I went to the detail of pulling McKissick, who traditionally does real estate education. That's where you traditionally go through. And they do state in their arm's length transaction details. I think this was just mismarked on the listing because it does have exposure to market listed as well as just the unknown parties. Talking to certain realtors, they kind of know if it's related parties and kind of stop there versus market exposure. So I'm not looking at the sales factor as arm's length because we're clearly noting it's a single party listing on there as well. So those are the items of which I added and kind of the reason why the assessor did not look at the sale as an indication of market value. There's an issue of the market exposure. Therefore, we kept and maintained that last level of assessment that was on the property record. To address at the top of the conversation, there was an adjustment made when talking with Matthew, one of the property owners. One of the first things I like to do is just review the property record card. So there still is some discrepancies. We went area by area just to walk through, just to get an idea of when the last assessment happened, what was the details, and making sure there's some accuracy there. So to the best of my knowledge, it's essentially a single story with some finished space above an attic and above the garage. Because of the layout of the house, there's kind of an initial attached garage and then an overhang and a third kind of attached garage. The last assessor had finished space above that garage. That does not exist. So we eliminated gross living area from that. The reduction from the original roll to the current rolled value is from that reduction of gross living area multiplied by that same valuation that the last assessor had. So there was a reduction because there was incorrect data on file to that degree. However, there seem to be more bathrooms than what we have on file. But again, based on the conversation I had prior to board starting, the information that we have was verified by one of the property owners, and so I moved forward with that information. I will still, knowing that there is a we have 3 full bath, 1 half bath on record. I'll be updating it to reflect the testimony today, which is 4 full bath, 2 half bath on the property. I will not be adjusting up for that. I'll just clarify the data and leave the record as it sits unless the board decides to make any changes today. That's my testimony.
Okay, do you have any questions for the assessor?
So I guess when, at any time, I guess, so no matter if it's a maintenance year or not, you or we can be assessed different amounts, but as people, we can't come to you and say, this is what, we have objections to what it started as. Like, we weren't even here last year to object to that. So, and I know it's kind of I think unusual or unique that we're trying to do it in an off year, but, you know, looking at it, I guess why, if we think that it should be a different one, why would we not do it in this year? Do you understand what I mean?
Yep, and I think to answer your question, you are doing it. You are
Yeah.
talking to the assessor and having a conversation, and if there wasn't an agreement of value, then you have the right to attend board, which you
Okay.
are doing. So there's always that opportunity
Okay.
to still contest value.
Okay.
The things I went over today are just the reasons why the assessor moved
Feels-
forward with current things. So if we were to make an adjustment merely off a sale for one, it would then be inappropriate to not do that for all, and therefore then we'd be doing a interim market update instead of a maintenance year. So again, we do give consideration to understand if there would be differences.
Yeah.
And again, with it not being exposed to the market, the sale wouldn't have generally been considered as a valid indication of market value.
So how would you, I guess, then find market? It has to be on the MLS to make the assessment, or to make, I don't want to put it, to make that say what it really is worth?
It would have to be exposed to the market.
For how
So-
long? Is there a time frame that it has to be exposed to the market?
Not necessarily. There would have to be at least an opportunity for competitive offers. And again, generally, your value would not have changed unless there was something that changed on the parcel. So that's why your property changed. The majority of properties in Delafield this year did not have a change in value.
Okay.
It was generally those that also had an additional, again, of those items I read,
Yeah.
generally construction of some kind,
Okay.
or classification change, things of that nature. So that's what triggered yours. Otherwise, it would have just maintained that last value.
Okay, okay,
And to address also in a sale year, sometimes realtors come and talk to us, sometimes that seller comes talk to us. There is times where there's things in motion where we still do hear from property owners
okay,
over those years.
okay, thanks.
So does anyone have questions for the assessor?
I do. Sure. So, on the realty listing, it says 4,800 square feet of finished space. On, their sheet, it says 4,900 square feet. Does that include the basement or not? And what is considered finished space with a basement and not and all? Okay, if you could explain that to me, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. So this is actually good additional clarifying information with some of the new information today, with especially the bedroom I'm curious about. So a realtor can, I'm not a realtor, so I can't speak on behalf of realtors, but traditionally what I see is that should be reflective of gross living area. Commonly what I'll find is for the assessor, our definition of gross living area would have to have exposure to the outside. So traditionally in this situation, a basement would be considered a rec room unless there was egress or walkout or an additional exposure. So the way it went into the record was as rec room, which therefore wouldn't count towards that gross living area. It is a factor that's on here, but it doesn't count towards that gross living area. However, hearing there's a bedroom, my assumption would be that there would be an egress added in that space, so traditionally that would start counting towards gross living area. But as far as the record, if it wasn't finished before, it generally wouldn't have been included within the MLS listing. We also, again, made an adjustment to gross living area because, again, the last assessor had overstated that it technically counts as finished attic area,
Yep.
so.
Okay. So also on the sheet, it says 4 bedrooms. This was actually technically then a 5th bedroom added.
She had stated
No.
3 above and then.
Well, I'm just looking at this sheet.
Oh, that's a great question for the property owner. I couldn't address where that 4th bedroom would have been considered.
And
I'm sorry, what?
You need to turn your mic on.
Yep, sorry.
so I'm just looking at the MLS. Do you have that one too?
Yes.
I'm just looking at the data, and I'm just trying to compare and make sense of all this. On here, it's listed as a primary bedroom, a 2nd bedroom, a 3rd bedroom, a 4th bedroom. Obviously, there's no 5th bedroom where it says, but, so on the, I don't know if it's a ranch or a 2-story.
A ranch with a basement. I misspoke because I guess they might be considering the office, which is on that main level, another bedroom.
Okay.
It has a closet.
Okay.
It has a window. So I just, I didn't
Yep.
even
Nope.
think that that was a
Okay.
bedroom.
When talking with Matthew, I asked how many bedrooms. He stated 4. It matched our records. So
Okay.
without pulling the MLS listing,
Sure.
potentially that would be argued to be 5
Yeah.
if that office exists, regardless of use, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
That being said, again, clarifying, is there an egress window in the basement where the bedroom is?
Yes, but that was there already. We didn't,
But it wasn't livable.
no, it
space.
wasn't livable. It was on concrete.
Yes, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
The record also from the prior assessor had exposure as no, which typically exposure means would there be generally a walkout or an
Yep.
egress? That will now be changed to yes. Normally those go hand in hand, but generally if we see basement added, we look for that exposure key to see if there'd be
Sure.
gross living area versus not.
Yep.
So in your, on the property card that you've got, the property record that you have, the sale, I'm assuming this is the sale where the property owner just bought it, on June 26, 2025?
Correct.
You've got that listed as an invalid sale, and you say trustee's deed, is that what, I guess, what does that mean? Is that where you're saying, is that a description of why it's not or that's just a conveyance, like how the transaction happened?
So there is one invalid from 2026, and that was just a quick claim deed. I don't know necessarily what that's responding to, but the June 27th, 2025, it was marked as a invalid code 19 for market exposure. That's where the invalid nature comes from, not the conveyance.
Okay. Is there any other questions that we have for the assessor? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a question on the, my exposure or experience on a private sale is many people either offer equal or more than what the market price is because they don't want them to go to market. I've never seen it go the other way. Why wouldn't that be considered as a valid number?
Because the state statutes note it has to be exposed to the market in order for it to be a market or a valid sale. And I have seen it go both ways. I have seen it be overstated and understated. Typically, that might be matched with some sort of compulsion. That, again, the property owner may know by that other resident. So I've seen it go both ways.
Yeah.
Not to say you're wrong, I absolutely see the high end as well.
I have a question going back to the sales history. The 32726 transaction shows a quit claim deed. What is that? Bless you.
Sorry, without pulling the transfer deed, it may be, you might have purchased in your name and then moved it to the name of a trust. Normally, it might just be a title change. There's $0 associated to it, so it's not, anything that goes through the Register of Deeds and then to the state, we pull in, and it could be as simple as a name change. Given that the list of grantors has a trust and it's currently owned in the trust, most often what happens is that the property owners purchase it in their name and then do that title change to get their assets in the name of the trust if they so wish.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
So when you say invalid, is that the same as you can't use it as a comparable? And I don't know if, I don't know if you use comparables or realtors use
Yeah, we wouldn't use it as a market adjustment or a comparable property on a mass spectrum. However, again, we still review those sales, and if there would, well, in this situation, I still wouldn't use it as a comparable. There might be a invalid because there was highly renovated, so we wouldn't still assign that as an indication of market value. But if there's another property that didn't go to market and had been highly renovated, that might be a great comparable in that situation. But in a mass assessment practice, we wouldn't have added that to our analysis to then use to compare other properties.
So in your evaluation that Accurate came up with was based on 4 bedrooms 4 baths and 1 half bath?
So we kept the original valuation that was set forth last year, and on the record at that point, I believe it was 4 bedrooms, 3 full bath, 1 half bath.
So if you had the accurate information and it had 5 bedrooms, 4 full baths, and 2 half baths, the price may have even been higher.
Potentially. We traditionally wouldn't increase in a maintenance year unless, again, something else triggered. Again, we're looking for cleaning up the data, and then if there was that other change, we'd be focusing on the basement. We don't have the sales analysis from the last appraiser. Traditionally, if we had done the last assessment, I'd go back to that analysis, and with the data update, I would see could it still be supported even with the data update and setting the value back to where it was before making any additional adjustments. Without that, and it was gross living area that was adjusted, we agreed to update the square footage and reduce based on that overstating of square footage.
What is your thoughts on the comparables being about $80 or $90 per square foot less than what are using? Because those are comparables just a couple doors down within 18 months. I would think they would be quite, and probably those comparables were used in the number that they came up with in offering their price of 1.7. These are at 1.5 and 1.6 for houses about the same size. It seems like your numbers seems to be quite a bit higher than what the comparables are.
Sure. So assessments are always as of the first of the year. So when the prior assessor had done the analysis last year, they would have used sales from 1/1 of 2025 and previous. So even though that sale date of 1/8/2025 is, I'd have to take a look to see if that was recorded at that time or closed at that time. It may or may not have been included within their analysis.
But you have these comparables now, though, for this hearing purpose.
I can take a look.
I would just like to add to his comments, Paul's comments as well, though, the square footage then is not accurate on this then too, if it's got livable space in the basement, or livable might not be the right word, but so I don't know if that is accurate then, the square footage price.
Yeah, the sale date within the record was the 1/8/2025. Oh. We actually show 1/8 of 26. So without further review, it definitely wouldn't have been included in the last assessment. Even in this year, if we had done a reevaluation, it would have been before 1/1 of 2026. So it still wouldn't have been something that we would have considered. But I can take a look at the one from 2024. Most often, though, if there's one comp being brought up, it would just be a very small set of the overall analysis. And again, I don't have that overall analysis to see if that would be an outlier, if that was, the other adjustments that may have been made on a bigger scale. So it might indicate a lesser dollar per square foot, but we typically wouldn't use a single sale as an adjustment. Sorry, I'm going to take this.
I'd like to go back to your Wisconsin Property Assessment Manual
Sure.
on page 10-3, and the highlighted text that you gave us was, "The seller is not dependent upon a single purchaser for the disposal of the property." And it sounds like that was at the seller's discretion. They weren't under duress. They weren't, only limited to one buyer. They just happened to take the first offer that they got. But being dependent sounds different than the situation we're looking at here.
Right. That might relate more to compulsion there, but again, with 10-12, it really speaks to the market exposure.
So are you currently, have you just been asked to do a live market comparison on a comparable based on evidence that wasn't provided by the person filing the objection?
Well, I can't recall if I saw that in advance or not, but from my conversation when talking to Matthew, the opinion was, but this is what we paid for it, so therefore this was the opinion of value. It really wasn't based on comparables. So we walked through, again, it being a maintenance year. However, again, that's why we wanted to go over the details, and that's when we found it wasn't exposed to the market, and I, again, went over, well then, again, the details here. So it really wasn't based off of comparables. The opinion was based off of that sale price, so we didn't really dig further in there.
So if there was this, if the builder loved this house so much and built two of exactly the same house, there's one right next door to this, same everything, and it was assessed for $100,000 less, there'd probably be a good case to be made that one of the assessments is incorrect.
Potentially, but I will say this happens, and I'll give it even more extreme, a side-by-side townhome,
Okay?
but condoed, so they're each independent, they share same building materials, same roof, what have you, and they both go to market. People pay different prices, and per the state, Markerian, sale of oneself is the best indication of market value. Two different buyers might pay completely different prices, and they're gonna start off at a different dollar per square foot on those. I've seen some very drastic in different values, even though they share walls. So even, there's times where we're still gonna see differences.
Is that what makes it important to have as much exposure as possible to the fair market to establish how true to value the sale price actually is?
Yeah, because again, they're looking for what the market would be. So if it's just a single party listing, the state doesn't feel that it would be indicative of what the market would do. It could be comparable, but without that exposure, they're saying that you can't necessarily say that.
So when you said feel, I mean, to me, it sounds like that situation makes it lose its hierarchy in as far as what's to be considered first. Because we're trained to say that the number one proof to establish the value of a property is the actual arm's length transaction. And so if you eliminate the market exposure and you have a single party listing, you eliminate that arm's length, and then, so it loses its place as number one as far as the way to interpret the value of the home. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then you go on to the other criteria, which is comparables and such. So that's kind of where we're at.
Except for we're also in a maintenance year, so again, we're maintaining that last level of assessment.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions for the assessor? Do you have any other witnesses that you would, okay. All right, let's see where we go here. Okay, so you get a chance then to present anything new in response to how she talked through her testimony.
I would just say, I understand it's a maintenance year, but, and this would be a unique situation, but if this is what really should be our value, then that's really what it, should be. So, we're just here to try to figure that out.
Okay, and this seems redundant. Do you have any questions for the objector? No? Sorry, I was asking the assessor.
Oh, sorry.
I don't have any additional.
Okay, does the board have any more questions?
I have one. The value of the improvements, is there agreement
Yeah.
that that's a reasonable number?
Yes,
And so this all comes down to what's the baseline that it was added to,
correct.
and the definition of what makes it valid, being arm's length, would be one. That's really the facts that we're trying to get to. Can we actually call it a valid arm's length transaction? And
I'd
right
say we
now-
need questions right now. We will deliberate in a minute.
Yeah, also true. I'm good then. You match on the value of the improvement. Okay.
Okay, any other questions for the property owner? Lori, do you have any more extra evidence to provide?
I do not know.
Okay, seems really redundant, but would you like a final statement? for summary?
we can
Okay.
keep-
How about you, Lori?
No, thank you.
Okay, with that, I will consider the taking a testimony closed now, and we'll begin our deliberations. So you can have a seat. We will not be asking questions. So, does anybody here believe that what we've heard is insufficient to make a decision? Okay. So if not, the testimony is closed, and we'll open this up for deliberation. So if we've got our, let's see here, it's a nice little packet with titled Board Review Member Suggested Property Owner Inquiry. So we can go through this. Actually, Molly insists on it. So would you like to review the questions on the front, or we kind of done that through our,
That would have been through the inquiry.
That was through our
Yep,
inquiry.
some suggestions to ask about.
why don't we go to the page that says testimony here,
Oh, section A.
section A?
Sorry, yep. I'll just go through and review.
All right, we need to update this, right? So the value is not what was on this, is on our sheet here. It is, do you have that
I
written
do,
down?
yep. Do you want me to review?
Yeah,
what
why
I've
don't
got?
we review what that is so we can mark it on our,
All right, so for the assessment year 2026, tax key number DELC 0754013, property owner Matthew Shear and Charlene Pinkelman Shear, property address 3280 Waterleaf Lane, Heartland, Wisconsin, with the mailing address of the same. As discussed here and noted by the assessor earlier, the land value is at $223,800. However, the improvements were adjusted based on that living space noted earlier, and that total was $1,695,600 for a total value of $1,919,400. The hearing date was scheduled for today, 7/15/2026 at 4:15 PM. We did start a little bit later than that. The objector did receive written confirmation of the hearing 24 hours in advance of this occurring. The taxpayer did intend to file an objection actually at the same time that they provided me with the paperwork, but I did receive a phone call as well prior to, and both were received timely. Board members present, as noted earlier, Mayor Iker, Alderperson Wilkin, Thanos Maxwell, Craig Hines, Paul Price, Janine Sawal, Tom Wolfenberger. The alternates were not required tonight. There were no requests for removal and no members that would not be present. The city of Delafield did not have council present, and the property owner did not have any attorney or other representative. Charlene Pinkelman Shear, 3280 Waterleaf Lane, and Lori Sacco of Accurate Appraisal were sworn in as witnesses by myself, the Board of Review Clerk. And I believe that's kind of where I stop filling in. If you folks would like to, if the board would like to discuss the following information.
well, I think we all know that property was sold at, in June of last year at, first 1725. And that's, there's not a disagreement about that, right? And, and there's addresses of other properties that were submitted with, not a lot of supplemental information on them regarding how they, if you were to actually do side-by-side and make allowances for living space, number of car garage, acreage, et cetera. We had a general statement on the square footage, cost per square footage, I think, was was the compelling case they tried to make. And so those are in our packet. And so, but frankly, I mean, unless someone else has something that they got out of this other than what I'm about to say, and that is that the main objection here is we paid 1,725 for it, put 70-something into it, and so it's worth 1.8. It's kind of what the rationale for the math, and that logically, at its face value, makes sense, right?
Can I just ask a clarifying question real quick?
Yeah.
So during open books, that adjustment, that's where that adjustment was made? Of the difference of what we have on our sheet?
That's what they said,
And what
yeah,
we
that
just
they
did.
agreed to those
Okay.
changes and the value, and.
Okay.
And that's where the revelation of what wasn't living space came out too.
Sure.
So they seemed to agree on those terms,
Okay.
but then the final price didn't seem, there was an objection by, I don't know what it is, about $100,000, right, is where they're separate?
Just making sure I'm following.
Yeah. And then the sworn testimony was from one of the two property owners herself. No other witnesses, so I'm kind of going through this. The assessor was the only person who gave testimony based on the assessment office. And what do we have for the sale, for the assessed value there?
That's the 92%.
Oh, 92% is what the current level of assessment estimate is for 2026. I don't know that, how much that runs into it, other than that's a number to consider, right? Because that's based on an estimate for 2026 and not necessarily 2025, January 1st, right? Subject property was sold for. We've got the same selling price here. And I think what we've got from the assessor, when we go to the next page on number 4, the sworn testimony that was presented by Lori, and then
D, it would be 3D.
3D.
So that would be where the information with regard to the manual and what is considered an arm's length sale was presented. Other factors.
Oh, yeah, as far as, yeah, so the point of contention here is how, I think this is worth talking about, is that it was a private listing and it was a single person-to-person transaction based on connecting realtors and airing out, do you know anyone who's got a house to sell type of environment, right? I mean, how much does that weigh in with you? To me, it seems like that's not adequate exposure to the market. But what's everyone else's opinion?
I have my son did exactly the same thing 2 years ago in a neighborhood a mile away, and I think he paid $100,000 more than he had to, because he was very concerned. And the realtor that he was working with, his own realtor, said, you know, we don't want them to go to market. Offer a fair price. Don't screw around. And that's what he did. And I think most people in this market, maybe not in other years, but right now, if you want to buy a house, you put a good number out there or you won't get it. So I feel the number close to the comparisons here of other homes are very, very close. So, and I know that neighborhood extremely well. That's not a $2 million house.
You're not here to testify, though? That's part of the problem? We have to judge the evidence that was given
Right.
to us?
But I'm just looking
And
at,
so
looking at the evidence.
Yeah, but so, I mean, what's lacking is these other homes that we're being compared to is, and what would have served, in my opinion, the property owner very well, is to have somebody do an assessment comparison and do an actual comparable side by side if they wanted to establish and use those as comparables.
Right.
We need to see why they're comparable. I mean, are they the same age home? Are they in the same kind of condition? Do they have the same kind of features? I mean, these are things we can't determine by a $1 per square foot thing. It's really, we're speculating. And
Yeah, because there's a
I
lot
think
of
the
things
problem is
that go into that.
we're not
Landscape,
finding somebody
garages.
guilty, we're having to prove somebody's wrong. And I don't know that we have enough evidence to prove our assessor's wrong, is where I don't think we've been given enough tools to establish that, and it's not a big gap we're trying to close here. Yeah, that's where my head is at. I'm not trying to lead the whole pack here, but that's, I think that's what our job is, to just, we have to deal with what was provided to us, not add our own personal information or speculate.
One thing that strikes me is the timing of the different transactions, and it seems like the assessment was really predicated on that 12/31/24 assessment of $1,902,000, and then it, that was the point of departure for the assessor. But subsequent to that assessment, there was a sale. And, whether it was, arm's length or, a valid sale from an assessing perspective, from a common sense perspective, to Paul's point, it's hard to get a house out there. And so if you're not gonna pay market value or a little bit more, the market's gonna tell you that you can't have the house.
Right?
And I understand that, from an assessing perspective and trying to draw profiles and everything like that, you can't use this as a data point. But in this case, it's clearly a data point because it's what happened.
It seems like other people can't use it as a data point. We can use it as a data point for this situation, though.
Right, right.
So a question, so in section C here, determinations, it's a couple page further, but like, we're trying to determine, was this an arm's length transaction? In other words, we're saying, is this the most money that the seller could have gotten if it, let's say it was out on MLS for 6 weeks?
We don't know.
So that's, we're kind of guessing. Was this the most shrewd homeowner that was selling this property saying, I'm gonna be lucky to get 1.7, and someone offered him 1.725 or whatever, and they got it? Or is it someone who says, I can't believe we're getting out of here for one, this is gonna happen real quick, let's go, let's take it, so I don't know, like, that's why I think that rule exists where exposure to market is critical to how to determine whether it's a valid sale or not. I think that the time to really put that to test is when they look at a market adjustment year like we're going into next year, and then bring in all the comparables that have been selling, and everyone in the city is fair game, everyone's getting adjusted. So is there consensus on whether this was an arm's length transaction or not?
By the definition that the assessor is required to use, it is not. That's what she presented. I also believe the homeowner and the way the transaction occurred is the way current real estate practices are occurring. So I totally get that too. Mm-hmm. But this all comes down to valuation under the criteria of what's an arm's length transaction, and we don't have enough proof to offset what the assessor's doing, so I would say no, based on the definition.
I think it's interesting that the person who sold this house obviously didn't agree with the assessment of 1.9 million either, because he sold it for 1.725. So I think that has something to do with it, because the person who sold it didn't agree with the 1.9, or they would have sold it for that, or not accepted that. And see, I'm going to market. This is worth 1.9.
Or they would have come in and gotten adjusted.
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting.
What do you think, Thanos? You've been quiet over there.
Yeah, I'm more of an observer. I mean, to me, it would appear that the seller was, I mean, happy with that offer and perhaps just wanted to get the sale done and move on, so. Yeah, I don't know, it's hard to say without, additional information being presented.
I think we can feel a certain way about what the pricing is and knowing what the market is, but based on the evidence that was provided and what the assessor has said, that she has to go based on, I think based on her information that she presented, that's what we have to base our decision on, no matter what we might feel.
All right, so I think we've talked through it pretty substantially. The last page in this packet, we have, second to last page. Let's see, item 2 here. Oh, I'm sorry, section D, so it's third to last page. Okay, so there's 1 and 2. So it's, the motion for number 1 means the assessor's valuation is correct and not.
C, just go down C and do the determinations and stuff like that.
All right, well, we know there's a recent sale, so we're going backwards, so C, we know there's a recent sale,
Section C,
section C, yeah, section C2. The board finds there's a recent sale,
number 1.
that was 92%.
Board determines 92%. Okay. The board finds that they're, okay, so now we're going to number 2.
Yeah, so that we're, and correct me if I'm wrong, the consensus is it was not an arm's length transaction. Is that right? Okay. And that the sale was representative of the value in January, or not? Was it representative of the value of somebody, but.
Well, I don't think the sale was representative of the value as of January, because as of January, the assessed value was $1.9 million.
That was in December of 2024.
So I have a problem with this. So if we're not determining that it's an arm's length transaction, this stops.
Then you would
Doesn't
just, no's.
So the answers aren't all yes to these. So as soon as we hit a no, we're on to the next number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go to number 3. There's recent sales of comparable properties. Well, yeah, but I want to present testimony of recent sales and properties, yes. Were the attributes satisfactorily adjusted for their differences from the subject and their contribution to value? I mean, that's where I think we fell short, is comparing the comparables adequately to say, they're spot on and this is adjusted 10% higher, 10% lower. Is that, everyone in agreement with that?
Yeah, yes.
And the assessor did not present recent sales of comparable properties. The claim there was, since it's a maintenance year, they typically do not. So conclusion, we do not have properties that we're using to make any kind of adjustment at this point. Board of Reviews finds that the assessment should be based on other factors. Okay, let's just say what was the most credible evidence presented is really the previous assessed values and where we're at in the maintenance and schedule. And, right, I mean, And, I mean, we also have to consider the fact that there was adjustments made for corrections to square footage and improvements made to the house. Those all didn't work against the value of the home. Some of them helped, some of them took it down, right? All right, so now we get back to section D. So item 1 is a motion saying that the assessor's valuation is correct, it sustains it, and motion for number 2 would be that the valuation is incorrect. I'd like to give it a swing. No one's going to jail. Right?
I move that exercising its judgment and discretion pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 70.479A, the Board of Review by majority and roll call vote hereby determines that the assessor's valuation is correct.
And we'll read through the other ones. Which ones do we agree with or not agree with?
That the assessor presented evidence of the proper classification of the subject property using assessment methods which conform to the statutory requirements and which are outlined in the Wisconsin Property Assessment Manual. That the property owner did not present sufficient evidence to rebut the presumption of correctness granted by law to the assessor. And sustains the same valuation as set by the assessor.
All right. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Is there any discussion or questions? Okay, roll call vote, please, Molly.
Sure thing. Mayor Iker,
Aye.
Alderperson Wilkin,
Aye.
Thanos Maxwell,
Aye.
Craig Hines,
Aye.
Paul Price,
Abstain.
Janine Sawal,
Aye.
Tom Wolfenberger.
Abstain.
Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor, 2 abstentions, so that motion passes. And so we adopt these findings of fact determination decisions on July 15th, 2026. So with that, that hearing is closed. So you will have a determination of the ruling that the clerk will have. Do you have that to give her now, or she can pick it up? She's got it here to give you. And I encourage you to reach out with any questions to our assessor, and maybe we'll see you next year. Okay. Okay. Okay, moving on. There's no more hearings. All right, we're looking, this is an interesting one. Discussion and possible action to close a board of review hearing. Oh, we already did this. Provide notion of board of review determination form to objectors who are present. There is none. Discussion and possible action on scheduling additional board of review dates if necessary. There are none. So 21, who would like to do 21? It's a motion to adjourn.
We can't adjourn for another.
Oh. 2 more minutes? We need to sit here for 2 more minutes. You don't have to. You're welcome to. You paid your price.
This is very interesting to me.
It is. I think they're on our website. If they're not on our website, they're on our assessor's website, which you can link to.
Yeah.
I found it very, very helpful to read the assessor's manual, our manual, and the property owner's manual.
It makes sense.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Try, I mean, no, that,
It's an interesting process. We have an interesting state, but are you new to Delafield?
we are.
No, are you new?
No, well, my husband grew up here. I grew up in Minnesota.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome to your new home.
It is, I love it.
Good, good. Thank you. Huh? Who is? Oh, her husband? Oh.
But just as a point of order for future meetings and assessments, we are not allowed to use any information from a private sale, because that's considered not an arm's length. Is that what the state is saying?
It's to what extent you consider it. So it doesn't mean you can't consider it, it's just, it loses its place as the number one ranking.
'cause
There's a
it's-
ranking system
Right.
as far as what you should be taking into
Because
consideration.
private sales right now in this market are so common, not to allow that as a significant part of the value.
This
seems
is
absurd.
good for this is good for a, future training session we can all have.
Right, right.
Now it's 6 o'clock, who'd like to make a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
All those in favor? Craig? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say nay. Okay, we are now adjourned at 6:01.